All right, Fantasy Football Factory wide receiver edition. Mincy, how you doing? Where in the world are you right now?
Okay, so I'm in Denver, Colorado. Had we'll say the last week, whirlwind. Had a blast. We missed you on Wednesday at the Barstool 20th Anniversary Awards. I know, Steven, you and your family are making I guess, I don't know if it's quite cross country, but about half the country
Halfway,
trip,
yeah.
moving to Chicago. Pretty much everybody else got to make it. Great event. It was awesome to just be back at Barstool. Just you could feel this positive vibe and energy throughout the company with Dave having it back. People were fired up, and I don't know if you saw the table I sat at, Steven.
I did not.
So I got seated at a table. It was Erica, Dave Portnoy's parents, Silvana, Walker, Brandon Walker, Rico, and me. The main
Wow.
table, front table. It was so
Look at
funny.
you.
So I was like, I saw it. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
Gaz said, if you come, I'm promising you a sick table. So he,
Oh,
he didn't lie.
nice. Let's
But
go.
great event.
It
And then
looked awesome.
I flew to Denver Thursday for like one of my best friends, like lifelong friends, is having a kid in like 5 weeks. And so we did like a big guys trip. It kind of felt like a bachelor party trip for the baby in a weird way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But played in the poker tournament in Colorado and then went to Red Rocks concerts last 2 nights. So can't lie, little tired. Getting back to the South tomorrow. Getting football season starts this week. This is like the end of the summer thing. College football starts this week. Obviously, we're getting
Yep.
geared up tonight. Wide receivers and how much depth there is at receiver right now is crazy in the NFL.
So much depth. And yeah, I was bummed to miss the Barstool World. The closing on my house was scheduled like 2 months ago. We had actually a really long closing, and we found out about the Barstool Awards like I think like in mid-July. And I was like, all right, well, shit, I'm not gonna be able to do all this stuff. So unfortunately, I had to miss that. But it looked like an awesome time. Definitely had some FOMO missing out, but I was glad I got to do the case race before I went, and I was like moving that day and the next day. So it was a long week, but I'm glad to be here, and we're almost fully settled in.
And the move went pretty smoothly. I saw the content as you were driving cross country.
Yeah, as smoothly as a move can get. I got kind of boned by my moving company, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get into the receivers. This is obviously a very deep group, as you just mentioned. Zero wide receiver, or sorry, zero RB strategy, something I invented a very long time ago, over a decade ago, is very prevalent in mainstream right now. And a lot of people are going receiver very, very early. How do you see this like group shaking out? It seems like there's a fairly clear top two, but I know we have differences even in our top four. So how do you view the tier one of this group?
All right, I have the tier one as my top four. And I think everybody, it seems like Justin Jefferson's kind of the universal number one at this point. Um,
Yeah, there are some people that have Jamar Chase above him. I do not agree with that. I think
yeah, no,
it's still
I just feel like Jefferson's target share is like, I mean, Chase is, don't get me wrong, he's great, but they also throw to Higgins and Boyd and spread it out. Like Jefferson's just the dude, and so I have Jefferson one, Chase two, Cooper Kupp three, and Tyreek Hill four, and that's my tier one. Tyreek Hill, I know he had 1,710 yards last year, broke the Miami record. And I know the Cup thing, it's interesting because I know we were both big, huge. I remember 2 years ago, we were like literally people won their fantasy leagues because of how high you and I were on Cup going into that year. Last year, he was tearing it up and then got hurt, and Stafford got hurt. It went to crap. I know the hamstring injury concerning in training camp, but all the reports I'm reading are that he's still good and the rehab's gone well. So I might be making a mistake here, but I'm being optimistic on Cup, and I'm curious how you feel about him.
Yeah, I know that we were the Cooper Cup guys a few years ago when he had that monster year. I am down on him this year. So last year, great, averaging 101 yards per game in his first 8 games. Obviously, had the ankle injury that ended his year in the ninth game, but he's not far removed from 145 catches, almost 2,000 yards, 16 touchdowns. I get it, but the Rams in 2021 won the Super Bowl, and a lot of that was off of Cooper Kupp. They are far, far from that. And Matthew Stafford, who was rumored to be potentially retiring after last season with neck injuries, I know that he's a tough guy. He's played through a lot, but there are two guys that I'm much lower on than the rest of the industry, so to speak. It's Cooper Kupp, who's his ADP is wide receiver 3. I have him at 7. And then
Okay.
Davante Adams, who's wide receiver 8. I have him as wide receiver 10, and I almost don't even like him that high. And both are similar, slightly older, not crazy old. Like they're still absolutely in productive years. They're not, I don't expect the wheels to completely fall off, but I would not draft either. I wouldn't feel great about drafting these guys as my wide receiver 1 next year. Cooper Kupp a little bit, I would feel a little bit better, but like just the quarterback situations make me a little bit queasy. Matthew Stafford, not really buying him being fully healthy. Neck injuries are super, super cautious, and like you have to be really protective. One bad hit and he could be done forever. And then Jimmy G, I mean, that guy is not staying healthy at all. So, and without him, we're talking about Jared Stidham. Like, I know Davante Adams
Yeah, I
got
think it may be that
100.
Aiden O'Connell has had a good preseason for him.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not buying either quarterback situation. So I'm much lower on those guys. But I agree with you on Justin Jefferson. I think he's the clear cut number 1.
Yeah, no, he's just so consistent. Rounding out, I have Tyreek 4. I have Garrett Wilson at 5, who I think you and I both are extremely high on.
Yep.
I just love his upside with Rodgers. I thought he was. I mean, they had a quarterback. It was a Chinese fire drill last year, and he was still super impressive at over 1,000 yards his rookie year.
Yep.
And I really like the way Rodgers can push the ball down the field to him. I'm big on him. I like Chris Olave from the Saints a lot. I know that's just a huge surprise, but I do think Carr's going to throw for some yards. And then I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown rounding out my top 10. I know you probably have him higher than I do, but I still really, really like him as well.
I don't actually have him lower than you do. I have him as wide receiver 11, and
Okay.
he's wide receiver 10 in ADP right now. I think that that's pretty much where he should be going. Like, I'm not really going to argue 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th as far as Amon-Ra St. Brown. Smaller guy, 6 feet, 200 pounds. He had 22 red zone targets last year, which was tied for 8th in the NFL. So I don't think the size is really that big of a hindrance. He is more of a slot guy, but he is super shifty and he gets the job done. There are two guys, as you mentioned, that I am much higher on. One of them, we are in agreement. We both have Garrett Wilson as wide receiver 5. His ADP right now is 13, which is crazy. I'm sure that's going to shoot up, as we get closer to the season. I would be shocked if he's not in the top 10 of wide receivers ADP. Like you mentioned, Chinese fire drill, 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns with Zach Wilson, Mike White, Joe Flacco. In 9 non-Zach Wilson games, he had 656 yards receiving. So, that would put him roughly at 1,300 yards over an 18-game stretch. So you can see, and that's with Mike White and Joe Flacco. With Aaron Rodgers, he's going to get much better on-ball production. We've already seen it on Hard Knocks and in the preseason. These two are connecting and hooking up. So I really, really like Garrett Wilson. I do have him a notch below Stephon Diggs. Only reason Diggs is a proven commodity. Josh Allen pushes the ball down the field. He's going to throw 4,000 yards. You and I have talked about it. Aaron Rodgers shockingly doesn't throw for a ton of yards or as many as people would think, but he's still an elite quarterback.
Well, and also another factor here is think about Green Bay never giving Rodgers a first-round receiver. I mean, he's, made the best of, he's had a lot of good second-rounders, but, I mean, this is, Rodgers has got to be really pumped to have somebody as talented as Wilson. He hadn't had that always.
I'm also, or actually, I'll save my guy I'm insanely high on for a little bit later. I want to talk about Tyrique Hill.
Let's do it.
Are you buying Tyreek Hill year 2? Last year, he had 119 catches, which is something I think nobody expected. 170 targets, 1,710 yards, 7 touchdowns last year. He said he's going to try and get 2,000 yards. You said you have him as wide receiver 4?
I do. I do buy him more. I'm a big fan of McDaniel. I love their offense. The one thing that's concerning, though, with Tyreek, kind of similar to the Kupp thing, is, I mean, you're relying on Tua to hold up, which is a
Good point.
concern.
Yep.
Mike White, their backup now. I do like him a little more than Bridgewater and
Yep.
all the stuff they had last year. Like I think he can come in for, I'm not saying he's great, but he can come in and sling it a little bit, pushing down the field. But I just love, man, I like that offense. When they have him and Waddle out there, I don't know how you can scheme up to stop that kind of speed. I like how McDaniel uses them, and I think they're going to score points. So, I'm big on him. He's just so explosive.
Yeah, I have Tyreek Hill ranked above Jamar Chase, which is
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, I have Chase as wide receiver 3. I like Chase a lot, but we're already seeing, Joe Burrow has a calf strain. Chase missed 4 games last year with a hip injury. Not that I think he's like injury prone or anything like that. He's been very consistent wide receiver 5, wide receiver 4 his first 2 seasons. So I expect him to be in that top 5 again. I don't think 3 is crazy low, but I have heard him in talks by some people in the industry as wide receiver 1. I'm not buying that. Justin Jefferson, in my mind, is just too safe of a play, even though he's not as big of a red zone threat as Chase, but fewer. But I do like Tyreek Hill over him, even though he's not, again, not as big of a red zone threat. 170 targets last year. Like that was with some games with Teddy Bridgewater. Like we're going to see, assuming Tua is healthy, he has a new style helmet to prevent concussions. He's trying to roll and looking at jujitsu stuff. I'm hoping that he stays healthy. I do, obviously my argument in the first segment was somewhat counterintuitive to that, but Tyreek Hill is just so talented. He's almost quarterback proof, and he is in an offense that is emerging. So I do really, really like Tyreek Hill year 2.
Yeah. And then I've got, I know there's been a lot of debate about the next guy. I've got Calvin Ridley at 11.
Okay.
I'm really close on him at St. Brown. I almost snuck Ridley into the top 10. I just really believe that Jacksonville, I think they win 11 or 12 games this year. I think they win.
Bad division.
Yeah, exactly. And it's NFC South, the crossover, and then they play that AFC South. And like you're talking about team, remember last year they ended up 9-8. They won the division. They won a playoff game. They were 2-7 at one point or something like that. I mean, it was, Doug Peterson's a really good coach. I felt like Lawrence, you can almost throw away his rookie year. Now he's in his second year with Peterson. They play a weak schedule, and I like the weapons. I mean, you got Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Etienne, Tank Bigsby even. I think that offense is going to pop. And so I think there's a lot of value there.
143 targets, 90 catches, 1,374 yards, 9 touchdowns. His last full season, but that was 2020. So, obviously he had the suspension last year, but people are forgetting 2021. The guy played 5 games.
Yeah, that mental health thing.
The mental health thing. I don't know if any of the gambling stuff was being leaked like internally or anything like that. And he was going through a lot, but obviously just a horrible season. And he was being looked at as like a first round pick that year if you're going for a receiver, like a top 5 receiver. So there are a lot of things around Calvin Ridley. His ADP right now is wide receiver 21, which seems like wildly low. I am higher on him. I have him at wide receiver 15, but he's a guy that I would not take him as my wide receiver. He's just too much of a risk, and we've seen that. But I have seen the videos of him this offseason, and compared to other receivers on the team, just looks so much better. I just want to see it over a full season before I really put all my eggs in the Calvin Ridley basket. Davante Adams. Let's talk a little bit more about him. You said, where did you say you have him?
I have him 8. You have him 10. But I have him an 8. Like, I'm not excited about him because, I know he's unbelievable route runner, unbelievable talented, but, him and Derek Carr had a really good chemistry going back to college. Mm-hmm. And obviously played with Rodgers in Green Bay. I just don't see how this Garoppolo thing can be positive here. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy G's been a winner when he's played, but he hasn't played that much. Like, I think his last full season, I know he played one game. He missed one game one of the seasons, but he's played essentially 2 full seasons in the last 6 or 7 years. That's not the type of offense that I want to be buying. And you're right. I think you make a great point with Derek Carr. He wanted to go to Vegas, not only because he's, from, he's kind of a West Coast Nevada guy, but he played with Derek Carr in college. And now that Derek Carr is not there, Jimmy G, just that's not an answer for fantasy. 180 targets is great. I don't see him getting that many this year. Obviously, still a red zone threat, 14 touchdowns last year, but again, Jimmy G. All right, let's talk about. We kind of touched on Amon-Ra St. Brown a little bit. Let's talk about like your tiers 2 and 3. Like, where do they really start and end? So, does Garrett Wilson start your tier 2?
Yeah, I'd say Garrett Wilson starts my tier 2 with him, Diggs. I'm big. I got AJ Brown at 7. I really like AJ Brown. Like, as long as he's had some injuries his first couple years, but last year he stayed healthy, and man, I mean, he was dynamic. And I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be again in that offense. A health dependent. So that's kind of, I'd say like that's where my tier 2 ends. Though there's a drop from AJ to Davante Adams for me, because of the Jimmy G thing. And then my tier 3 is like Adams, Olave, Calvin Ridley, Amon-Ra St. Brown, that crew.
Okay. My tier 2 is very small. It's just Garrett Wilson and AJ Brown. Those are my wide receivers, 5 and 6. I do think there is a little bit of drop. Like, I would be excited to draft AJ Brown, like top pick of second round, or maybe even last pick of the first round. Garrett Wilson, same thing. My tier 3 with Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb, the next guy, Amari Cooper. I'm very, very high on Amari Cooper. He had 132 targets last year. Second best yard per catch of his career, 14.9. One of the main things that stands out to me, and I put this bet out there publicly, that my favorite play of the offseason is Amari Cooper over 925.5 receiving yards. Deshaun Watson, in his last full season, led the NFL in yards per attempt. Last year, he was horrible, both in completion percentage, which was 58, but his yards per attempt was 6.5. Very, very low compared to the 8.9 that led the league. I think he's going to get back to pushing the ball down the field. And Amari Cooper had a catch of 20 yards or more in each of his last 5 games with Watson. I think Watson's completion percentage is going to improve. I think Cooper's yardage in turn is going to improve in catches. So I think Amari Cooper is going to be like a 1,300-yard receiver. So I have him as
this doesn't surprise me because when we talked about the quarterbacks, you were higher on Watson than I was too.
Yep. So I got Cooper, Davante Adams, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that rounds out my tier 3. And then Waddle and Devontae Smith start my tier 4. But that's my tier 3, and I cut it off pretty clear. And I think that there is drops between the AJ Brown to Cooper Kupp and the Amon-Ra St. Brown to Jalen Waddle.
Okay, I like Waddle too, just because like I said, it's kind of similar to the Tyreek thing. I just love if they're healthy. How do you game plan for those guys? And it's kind of fun in fantasy having guys, Waddle. I mean, he'll just have a 75-yard touchdown. Like when you get guys that break those plays, it makes such a big. Having those explosive guys that can win you weeks with one catch.
Speaking of that, how do you feel about best ball leagues?
Okay, I haven't done. I've never done one.
So it's like you basically have a bench, and then whatever your top score is. So guys like Jalen Waddle are very. I mean, I guess that's not the best example because he's.
But yeah, if your number 4 receiver goes off.
But yeah, if you have the classic. The Deshaun Jackson, where he has like a great game, but he's on your bench. It's best ball, so he's going to be, in your top scoring units. Will most likely if he has a good game. How do you feel about those type of leagues? Or I guess you said you're not as familiar.
So explain. So it's just you take your best scores games. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it essentially makes the bench irrelevant.
I think it would be kind of. I've never done it, but I think it would be kind of fun because I think it rewards good ownership for depth.
Yeah, I think kind of the fun part of fantasy is like when your buddy has someone that like goes off, but it's on his bench. It's like, oh, it sucks.
Yeah.
But you're like very happy about it inside. I think that's one of the secret joys. Not even so much of a secret, but I also like to play the heel in every league that I'm in. So it's a little bit of a different spin for me.
So I'm shocked. I haven't seen any of that with the city of New Orleans at all from you.
Yeah. Who are some sleepers that you have for this year, or guys that you're targeting late?
Okay. Well, if we're going later, I've got a few guys. I really like George Pickens this year.
Yep,
I think Pickett's going to step. I think Kenny Pickett is going to step forward a little bit. I feel like he has a good chemistry. I like Pickens' ability to snatch the ball out of the air down the field. Like, I feel like he really can go get, like, if you put the ball anywhere near him, he can go get it and make plays. And I feel like Pickett is going to get better this year. I'm not sitting here saying Pickett's going to, like, set the world on fire in fantasy, but he's going to be a lot better than he was last year.
He was 7 touchdowns last year, so yeah, I would expect that too.
Yeah, but I like Pickens. He's kind of one of my favorite later receivers. Another later guy I like Jahan Dotson for the Commanders. You know, he quietly scored a bunch of touchdowns last year.
Yep.
And I kind of feel like McLaurin's a little banged up already. And I feel like Sam Howell coming there. I feel like Dotson's a sneaky value there.
Yep. Agreed. A couple guys that I am higher on, or actually, we'll just go sleepers. I like Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
Minnesota number 2 receiver. I think he represents an upgrade over Adam Thielen. And Adam Thielen's a really good player and has been for a long time. He's going to be Carolina's like number 1 or number 2 receiver. Like, he's a starting receiver for them. I think that Addison, as far as playmaking, brings an upgrade. Even though Thielen is really good in the red zone, I think that this is going to be a good thing for the Vikings offense. He's ADP wide receiver 56. I have him at wide receiver 27 for me.
Okay.
Another rookie I have, or another guy I'm higher on who just happens to be a rookie, Zay Flowers. He's wide receiver 62 right now. I have him as wide receiver 30, which I don't think is crazy. Pickens, I'm pretty high on. Brandon Ayuk, I'm pretty high on. He's wide receiver 31. I have him as 19.
Oh, wow. I think with him is I think he really, people forget about him because they have Debo, Kittle, and McCaffrey. But no, he really stepped forward last year. I mean, he's good. They got a lot of weapons, and I'm higher on Purdy than most too. I think the offense is gonna be fine.
I am very low on Debo Samuel. I don't know if that's just a me thing. Quarterback, Brock Purdy, okay, like fine. He's going to get 3 to 5 carries a game. He had 632 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns receiving last year. Like, that's not a guy. He's being drafted as wide receiver 12. I have him as wide receiver 31.
Yeah, at 12 seems a little bit much. I have a couple other guys I'd like to mention too.
Yep.
So last year, this guy was one of like the fantasy darlings because he had that crazy playoff game against KC where he scored 4 touchdowns. And then Gabe Davis last year had high ankle sprain in week 2. And he tried to play through it all year and he sucked and didn't do anything. But high ankle sprains get people. He probably shouldn't have tried to play through it. I think I'm not sitting here saying he's like super elite, but I feel like he's like going as wide receiver, like 40 or 45 right now.
42.
I think he could, I think he could be in the low 30s if he's healthier because his playmaking ability. And then I'm, the Ole Miss in me. I'm curious. I'm hearing all these reports that Elijah Moore and Watson have had a good chemistry and they're going to use him some. So I might put him as sneak him as my number 4 receiver.
Fair. How do you view DeAndre Hopkins?
I just don't. I feel like there's this vibe the music might be over in Music City. I just don't think their offense is. One other thing about fantasy football too. I actually was analyzing this last week. You know what I like when it comes to like debating taking players? I like getting people that play on teams that are actually going to score points. And I have questions about Tennessee scoring a lot.
Yep.
I mean, I know that's a very basic thing, but like when in doubt, get guys that are going to be on explosive teams. And I just think this Tennessee offense is going to be a little stuck in mud here.
Yeah, his ADP is wide receiver 23. I have him as wide receiver 37, and I'm just not stoked about him. He was okay last year, 717 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, and he's 31. He's playing with Ryan Tannehill. For now, could be, Malik Willis, could be Will Levis this season. And they got Derrick Henry, who is also old, and Tajay Spears, who's looked pretty good in the preseason. But I'm just not buying DeAndre Hopkins in like possibly the worst fantasy offense for a receiver. I want to say outside of Atlanta, but maybe even worse than Atlanta.
Yeah, I'll tell you one other guy I'm not buying at all. It's an obvious one, but like I will not touch Michael Pittman with a 10-foot pole with Anthony.
They're going to say Michael Thomas.
No. Could be the bounce back year finally. Who knows? Some got him like number 39 though.
They had the clip of him like going like semi-viral of him like faking or like just toasting Derwin James. Michael Thomas is back. It's like Derwin James is a safety, so yeah, he should be doing that.
Yeah, I'm not willing to say he's back, but I will say on the Michael Pittman front, Anthony Richardson is going to throw for like 80 yards a bunch of games. I mean, he's going to be able to run. You don't want anything to do with this Indy passing game. I mean, Richardson might have the sneaky rushing value, but he's really going to struggle to throw the football. I know he went 6 or 17 the other night in preseason. I watched him play at Florida a lot last year. I mean, yeah, he's super athletic, but man, he's extremely like I thought watching him. I know he's such an athlete, and that's why we're number 4. But like watching him all year last year, it seemed obvious he needed a year in college to throw. I thought so. That's another one. I'm pretty down on. I want to ask you.
Oh wait, hold on. I think we're actually pretty alike there. He's wide receiver 26 in ADP right now. I have him as wide receiver 43. So I think as a show, we are very low on Michael Pittman Jr.
I want to ask you, Mr. Tampa Bay super fan.
Yep.
What do you expect out of God? But I want to ask both about Evans and Godwin. Like, what are we thinking here? You were at training camp. I mean, I don't think expectations are very high. I saw Tampa's 10-1 to win the NFC South right now. But they still do have Evans and Godwin are still pretty dang elite. You know, do you think they could have sneaky value here still with Mayfield? Because they're both falling really far.
Yeah, I don't think the Russell Gage injury really affects them, to be honest. They're both in a new offense, so I don't think you really look too much at last year. I think Mike Evans, you can set your watch to. He's going to be at about. I'm gonna guess Mike Evans' line right now, and I bet at the end of the year we can revisit it, and I'm going to be within 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's going to have 75 catches for 1,041 yards, and he's going to have between 6 to 8 touchdowns. And you can set your watch to that. They need to get him 1,000 yards. He's had 9 straight seasons of 1,000 yards or more. That record is important to him. If he has 500 yards receiving going into week 18, they're going to throw him the ball for 500 yards. Like that's going to happen. So he's going to get 1,000 yards. From what I've heard, and he didn't really play much in the preseason, but he has a good connection with Baker Mayfield. Take that for what it's worth. I don't expect them to be this high flying offense that is putting up 28 points a game. I do think their offense is going to be better than last year. The only caveat is it's hard to be worse than they were last year.
Yeah, it was bad.
Godwin, I'm not as
line help was so rough last year for them too, though.
Yes, and with Ryan Jensen being out for the year, since if you look at their team right now, I was thinking about this today. If you look at their team right now, from the team that won the Super Bowl, every position is different. Tristan Wirfs was the mainstay. He went from right tackle to left tackle. They have a new left guard, Matt Filer. Center is a competition between Nick Leverett and Robert Hainsey. Right guard, completely new rookie Cody Mock. Right tackle, Luke Gedeke, who was not in the league when they won the Super Bowl. So they have a brand new line. I do think the scheme is very good. They brought in the quarterback coach who worked with Geno Smith last year. Best case scenario is they revive Baker's career and he can have somewhat of a Geno type year from last year.
That would be, Geno, that would be pretty incredible.
Right. That would be great. Do I think that's necessarily going to happen? No. Kyle Trask has looked pretty good for what it's worth in preseason, but I'm tempered expectations. Godwin is wide receiver 25 ADP. I have him as 28. Mike Evans, I'm a little bit higher on. He's wide receiver 22. I'm wide receiver 17 just because you can set your watch to it. Just over 1,000 yards. He's probably going to have 6 to 8 touchdowns. He could have more, but I don't expect the offense to be great. So that's where I am with those guys. I have one below Olave, one above Terry McLaurin.
Okay.
All right. So are there any? Just to tie a bow on that, are there any other guys that you are much lower on than the rest of the industry?
I don't want to say it's hard. Oh yeah. Well, first of all, Christian Watson's top 20. I'm seeing. I'm not. I don't know. I just don't think I don't know what's going to happen with Jordan Love this year. I don't claim to, but I know he can't be better than Aaron Rodgers. And Watson came on real strong late last year. with the game breaking ability. I have questions about Green Bay's passing offense this year, so I think he's a little overrated.
Yep, that's fair. Trying to see who else. I'm pretty low on Hollywood Brown.
Yeah,
Deontay Johnson, I'm not buying. 0 touchdowns last year. He's going to do better than that. I expect him to catch a touchdown week 1. I think they're going to make a point of that. But I'm just not high on him. These
I
ADP
want to ask you, where are
24.
you on the Seattle guys? Because we both are kind of thinking Geno.
Low,
What's up?
low,
Low. Yeah, we both
across the
talked
board.
about that on the quarterback pod, where Geno was like white hot, like just so hot, or like on fire early in the year. But their offense, I mean, it slowed down late. He just got paid like $35 million a year. I don't know. My instincts are a little concerned about it.
Although I will say there is no better investment than Tyler Lockett in round like 8 or 9. Like he's going to be the consistent one in the group. He's had 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. It feels like he's always underdrafted. He had 9 touchdowns last year. Tyler Lockett, I have his wide receiver 25. He's going as wide receiver 30. DK Metcalf, I'm not buying him as like an elite top 10 fantasy wide receiver. I think he's a really good receiver, but he's not a guy I'm excited to draft. He does get a ton of one of 3 players last year to have 30 plus red zone targets, but he had 6 touchdowns. So like, let's see some eye-popping fantasy numbers from DK Metcalf before we get all crazy. And then JSN, like Jackson the Jigba,
He's already banged up a little bit too, isn't he?
yeah, he had a hamstring limited to just like 3 games last year. I'm a little bit lower on. I think he's very talented, but I mean, there's one ball, and they're also going to be a predominantly like running attack. I know Geno has a very good completion percentage, all this stuff, but I'm not buying the Seattle receivers as a whole.
I want to ask you about a rookie, the only first round rookie this year, Quentin Johnson. Where do you have for him? Because I feel like he's in a spot. I mean,
Yep.
Keenan Allen and Mike Williams somebody goes down every year.
Yep.
You know, and I know it may be like he'll be slower starting, but as the year goes on, if one of those guys goes down, he could be in a prominent role in that offense, like a guy you kind of want down the stretch, possibly.
Yeah, so I'm pretty low on Keenan Allen. I have him as wide receiver 29, his ADP is 16. I do have Quentin Johnson higher. I have him as wide receiver 41, his ADP is 59. And exactly for those reasons. He's got 2 injury-prone guys in front of him. If he gets into that action, you're going to expect, pretty good year. I would expect something like 800 to 900 yards, about 6 to 8 touchdowns. Like that's pretty good, especially from a rookie. So I am much, much higher on him. I think he could start off slow, but once things kind of pile up, I could see him having a couple big games.
Okay, going super deep sleepers now. Now we're getting really down to a couple other guys I kind of like. I actually think Brandon Cooks could be okay for Dallas this year because it was so bad opposite CeeDee Lamb last year. And now they got Cooks. Gallup's a year removed from the injury. But I think Cooks is kind of like the Deshaun Jackson type, though. He'll have like 2 good games where he just goes off and then he'll have a lot of duds. But I think he's going to be motivated getting out of Houston, being on a good team with the star on his helmet. A couple other ones. I think Hunter Renfrow with Jimmy G in the New England offense with Josh McDaniels. I mean, the McDaniels, the slot thing like came out of New England, with that.
Yep.
And I think Jimmy G is the type that'll throw to him a lot. I think that there's a chance Renfrow can have some value. And then going deep sleeper rookie, I like Jalen Hyatt for the New York Giants.
Yep.
Somebody's got to step up that receiving. I mean, you never knew who was going to be out there last year. I was impressed with him at Tennessee, and I think there's a chance he can have a big role.
Yeah, I also like him as a deep sleeper. He's been killing it in camp and in the preseason, so I would not be surprised to see him drafted in most leagues. So I like Jalen Hyatt. Tank Dell, someone out of Houston, another rookie. CJ Stroud asked them to draft him, so he's also been a really good route runner. He's the guy that I like. Devontae Parker with New England, I think he's wide receiver 74 right now. I have him as 47. That's a playable roster. And speaking of the Giants, Isaiah Hodgins, wide receiver 68 right now.
He played well down the stretch last year.
Yeah, I have him as wide receiver 33. In 8 games, five starts, he had 351 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns. That's really good in 5 starts. If you can get that guy I have him as wide receiver 33. If you can get that, that type of production on a per game basis at wide receiver 33, you're going to be really happy. So those are the guys that I like.
Okay, I have one other situation I want to bring up. Let's talk because we know the fantasy values everywhere because it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's talk what's going to happen with this receiving core. I mean, it's Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, who was a second rounder last year, really didn't pop too much watching him last year. Super deep sleeper rookie, Rashee Rice, who I like. But,
okay,
I mean, there's – what's up?
Justin Ross.
Okay. You think Justin Ross is Clemson?
Yep.
I just wonder how this thing's going to shake out because there's value somewhere here. I just don't know what's going to happen. And I was curious. I want to discuss it.
This is also why, and we did our tight ends preview. This is why you draft Travis Kelce top 5, because he is like the constant. And
yeah,
there are so many questions around the rest of the roster. Travis Kelce is going to get his, and he's going to be the first option in the highest or top 3 highest scoring offenses in football we expect to be. So that's why you invest. Nick Tarini actually sent me his draft, and he was like, "Oh, what do you think?" Travis Kelce went 2 overall. And I was like, but I don't hate that. Like,
no, I don't either because we just talked about the receiver thing with the tier thing. There's so many good ones. There's only one Kelce. You can get Kelce and a bunch of good receivers still. Like, you don't have to take one of the top ones.
Yeah. Travis Kelce is an absolute game breaker. I mean, he had the 6th most. I think he had the 6th most targets in all of the NFL last year, and he's a tight end. So I know we did our tight end episode, but if you're thinking about a receiver and here's a good question. Where would you rank Travis Kelce among the top group of receivers?
Like, it's just if he was a receiver?
I'm saying, like, if you have a top, where are you taking Travis Kelce in relation to the receivers? Like, if you have a top,
I'm not taking him over Justin Jefferson, but I think Tyreek Hill. Well, it's funny because they're both ex-Chiefs, but the Tyreek Hill Kelce debate's really close. I think I'd take Hill over him. But I'd say I'd take Kelce. I'd take him over. I have Cooper Kupp number 3 or 4. I think I actually thinking about it, I'd take Kelce over Kupp. I actually would.
Okay.
I know that just because Kelce's going to be out there. You talk about the durability, your best ability is availability thing. I remember last year. They were saying he was like questionable for the Super Bowl. I was like, they're going to have to kill this guy if he's not going to play this game. I remember like he had the back problem before. I was like, dude, he's gonna. There's no way he's missing.
Yeah,
but no, I think the reliability factor there is big with him, and that's like you always say that the best ability is availability.
Yeah, I would put him as my 5th overall player. I would put him below the top 3. I would put him above Stephon Diggs. So I would go. My overall board is going to be Christian McCaffrey number 1, especially if you're in, and I'm talking about half-point PPR or even full-point PPR. Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, and then I put Kelce right there at 5 overall.
Where do you have Eckler?
Find out next week at the running back preview. I'm not as high on Eckler.
I know I'm not either. All right, yeah, there you go. There you go. Do you have any
Which sucks. I really like Eckler. He's like the coolest dude to like listen to and talk to and all that stuff. And I know that he likes fantasy and he's on a fun team. They have cool uniforms and he's a cool dude, and I want to like him so much. And I can't put my eggs in the Eckler basket this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, next week we'll talk more about it. Running back week. And shout out, please follow us at FFF Pod on Twitter, Instagram. We're going hard. We got
TikTok too.
Yeah, TikTok as well. Shout out Cruz, doing a good job with our social. Also shout out to Tyler Moody producing. We got a good little team with us this year. I remember last year it was just us two, so we really appreciate having those guys around and helping us. And man, Steven, I mean, tonight, end of the last week of preseason, this thing only 10 short days away. Opening night, I'm going to Barstool Scottsdale, by the way, for the big NFL opening night party. So it's gonna be.
Let's go.
I think it's mega making money in me. So
let's go. I love it.
Should be fun.
Awesome, man. Thank you everybody for tuning into the wide receiver preview. Good luck in your draft. That might be happening this week, might be happening next week. wide receiver preview. Those are our thoughts. Running back preview coming next week. Appreciate you for bearing with us. We obviously had kind of a weird week, coming out a little bit later than expected, but thank you guys for watching, for listening, and we'll see you next week.